Hi guys, it's Lav here. I am the co-founder of Copywriting Miracle, and I'm here with Mark Pachetti, the supplement genius behind all the videos you'll be watching. And this is going to be one of the videos, one of the module videos that we've decided to attach that kind of bring in a supplements to the supplement copy, I guess. So first, Mark, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, there's a big distinction between writing health copy, supplement copy, and writing health supplement copy that's compliant. Now, you can go on to ClickBank. We were discussing this pre-production. You can go on the ClickBank, and a lot of those extremely successful campaigns with high gravity are largely list-based. So emails, you could be far more aggressive and far less compliant. You'll notice a lot of these programs make claims that they really can't even substantiate, nor does their product actually fulfill a lot of what they claim. And that unfortunately has become common practice, but less and less so. You see companies, real companies, coming down the pike with substance, like Organifi, Drew Canoli, the owner of the company. I met him down in San Diego at Traffic and Conversion Summit earlier this year at Organifi headquarters. You know, here's a company that is going out of its way to create bioavailable supplementation that is well thought out. The ingredients are well thought out, structured. Like for instance, I wrote for Pure, the main ingredient, lion's mane. Its mechanism is helping the second brain, the brain in our gut, speak clearly to the first brain. So neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, GABA, leptin can reach the brain. Those hormones can flood the brain faster, and we're able to feel happier and feel more satiated quicker when we eat, so we can eat less. So that kind of gets into what we're going to be talking about here, which is mechanism, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to clarify kind of what we were just talking about just now. So essentially what you're saying is that by writing sort of ethical and compliant copy, by being ethical, by making sales promises that you know that a product can deliver, you believe that there's actually way more money to be made than these guys who are sort of putting out all these sort of non-compliant offers and
Absolutely.
clickbait.
Yeah, sorry to complete that thought. So we're talking cold traffic. We're talking being able to hit, 3, 4, 5, 6% front end conversion rates on cold traffic, on Facebook traffic, on Google traffic, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever social media platforms and whatever audiences are going to be the most resonant. So again, on list traffic, you can say things, you can do things that are outside the box compliance, but on cold traffic, you can't do that and you get shut down. Therefore, you can't help people, you can't make money, you can't realize your potential.
So just for some of the newbies out there, what would you say is a pretty sort of standard to good conversion rate on cold traffic? Because, and just again, for those of you who don't understand, the difference between list traffic is when someone has your emails or some sort of contact with you, and so they don't have to go through an advertiser to get in touch with you, versus cold traffic is, hey, I saw your post or saw your ad on Facebook or on Google, and now I'm ended up in your sales funnel. And because of that, advertisers or people like Google, people like Facebook, are a lot stricter about what you can and can't say. So obviously these sort of less compliant guys who maybe, but the unethical copywriters, if you want to call them that, they won't be, they would rather drive towards list traffic. Whereas what Mark is talking about is, by being compliant, you have access to, you can sell to people cold, and therefore you're more likely to make more money. So you're saying you've done offers that convert at 3 to even 5% in cold traffic. What would you say is a sort of average in the industry for cold traffic?
So let me give you a right now example. I'm working with a company called My Doctor Suggests, selling alkaline structured silver, very different than colloidal silver. The mechanism of the product is amazing. So we're able to describe exactly, in other words, mechanism, describe exactly how it works for me. So on cold traffic, on Facebook traffic right now, we have tested numerous pieces of content, different sales letters, different variations of the same basic copy. And right now the winner is converting at 1.7%. However, it's not making money, it's losing money because the CPA, the cost per acquisition, is too high and the cart value is too low. So we need to get the cart value up $40. Right now it's at $90. We need to get it at a minimum of $130. And we need to get the front end conversion up while paying less money for those acquisitions. So a couple things are happening. We isolated from sales letter to checkout page, the cart. There's a huge gap in communication, and it's very unclear what you're actually purchasing because the what's in the box isn't spelled out, and that creates a lack of trust, and that is something that needs to be fixed. Second of all, the offer really isn't that irresistible. People need to be on these products for a while to really feel the results. So I'm going to add that into the copy, that premise. I'm 40 years old. It took 40 years for me to get to where I am. Should I genuinely expect in the first few days or even the first few the first week to be reborn? Does that miracle exist? Well, if you're deficient in something or you're overridden in something, so one can replete, one can get rid of, you're going to feel a difference. But long term, we're talking lifestyle. Diet, for instance, doesn't mean you go on a diet. Diet literally means what we eat. So, one of the things about health and supplement copy is really conveying the lifestyle. A supplement is meant to supplement an already ideal healthy lifestyle. If you're taking a supplement and you're drinking lots and lots and lots of alcohol, you really have no reason to take that supplement. And so there's an education awareness process that is also involved with compliant mechanism, story-driven copy. And that's really giving people the opportunity to see themselves in the problem. So it's not just about writing compliantly, and this is something that we're going to get into a different video about how to be a leader, how to direct the positioning, how to give people the opportunity to raise their hands and say, yes, that's me. How did you know? Right? And one of the first things that we do to achieve that is mechanism. But going back to the costs and conversions, if we can get our CPAs down $1 on this project, get the offer irresistible. So what I'm going to do is right now we're offering one internal drink solution and a free gel. So it's a yeast infection foam, and they need the gel because they're going to need to put it directly on their genitals. They're also going to need to drink a lot because the gut is ground zero for all of their symptoms. So because I did a deep dive into the actual cost of manufacturing, I was able to propose that we give, as instead of a 135 or a 136 offer, we're going to do buy one internal solution and gel, get 2 free of each. So that first front end low barrier of entry purchase is extraordinary. It's absolutely what we want, irresistible. The second offer, buy 2, so one, 2 gels, 2 solutions, get 3 of each free. That's it. So we're going to test that. We're going to clarify from the sales page to cart so that it's congruent. We're going to add a video on that page even to test against so that everything is sped up directly from the face and voice of the company, Dr. Gordon Pedersen. And then I'm going to add inventor speed after his credentials. Because if you think back to those like old infomercials, Ron Popeil or Jetstream Oven, it's like the inventor immediately goes into the inventor process. So I'm going to create a doodle, have my boy, Dace, create a doodle, simple, short, that describes the mechanism, which is how silver basically it's missing its electron and it vibrates up against candida, bad bacteria, trying to pull its electron, it explodes, vibrates it into explosion. Imagine that vision, right? So now we're creating an emotional connection to the mechanism. Those pieces are going to be tested this coming week, or maybe the following week, depending how quick the execution of creative is done. That should get us to a higher conversion because the offer is irresistible. There's much more substance and emotional connection for the mechanism getting to the offer, and there's congruency from the offer to the checkout page. Fixing those three things should get us from a 1.7 or 1.9 front-end conversion rate to easily potentially doubling that or more.
Nice.
While testing quizzes, interstitial pages, instead of going from ad to money page, interstitial pages, so that we can get the cost per acquisition down. Quizzes are one of the best ways to do that. Bring the cost down so that same, let's say, $10,000 that are spent every day becomes exponentially more money because you're spending less to get people into the funnel, and you're converting at a higher level because of the offer and the congruency increase. Does that make sense?
Yep. Cool. So let's get stuck into the module. You've mentioned mechanism a number of times. Could you explain a little bit more about exactly what mechanism is, why it works, and maybe give us a couple of examples as well?
Absolutely. So mechanism is the heart and soul of every copywriter's tool belt. You got your tool belt. The very first thing you need to do is isolate the mechanism. Now, this is going to bleed into how to be a leader because you need to know what you're doing. So I do a lot of, I'm talking about the gut, right? I do a lot of gut copy. Gut is ground zero for virtually everything physically and emotionally experience. Scientific fact. So the mechanism is what makes it possible for me, right? So right. It's like, oh, wow, that person experienced all those amazing results, but that's them, that's not me. That's one of the first objections that most people get. So the mechanism is essential to convey how it works for me. Now, the mechanism is also important for how you're going to position the campaign in the marketplace. Positioning is huge. It's how you enter the conversation, how you earn somebody's attention and earn their trust as a credible face and voice, as a credible campaign, for credible messaging. So, the mechanism for the silver, for instance, is the structured alkaline water can, so for instance, all bad bacteria and yeast candida cells have biofilm that surround them and protect them. That's why a lot of people who get candida overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, bacteria overgrowth, maybe in this case for this campaign, suffer from yeast infections, men and women. Men get them too. The mechanism is that the structured alkaline water defeats that biofilm, exposes that cell for to be combated against. And then the silver basically pulls the plug on it. It vibrates next to it because it's missing its electron, and it's pulling it from it until it explodes it. That's the mechanism. That's what works for everybody. So,
just to sort of clarify a little bit. So essentially what you're saying is the mechanism is, in essence, it's about saying this is how the product works, right? And the reason that it's beneficial is because it lets people understand that this is not just some random miracle cure that worked on me and isn't going to work on anyone else. This is not a fluke. It's not genetics. This is, the product works like this, and that's why it's going to work for you, right? You're kind of bridging that gap. And correct. One thing I noticed in the just now, what you were talking about was pulling the plug. And so, because obviously, I'm sure you spent a lot of time researching all of these health, well, there's just the health industry in general, and you understand how the gut works and whatever. But the prospect that you're talking to doesn't necessarily have anywhere near that level of information, right? So whilst you need to hit them with the scientific stuff that explains everything, would you say then mechanism, I mean, the metaphor included in the mechanism, like you said, pulling the plug, is that another sort of beneficial way to get people to understand it? Like, could we talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's an opportunity for people to automatically future pace themselves, to see themselves in the healing space, or how, so in other words, when I understand why something's possible, then I have the freedom to imagine possible because of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from a positioning perspective, it allows me to start out with something like, what if it's possible to finally defeat yeast infections naturally? Would you want it? And, that's weak, but it's an example of how I can enter the conversation by understanding the mechanism.
Right.
What if it's possible to uh, pull the plug on Candida and yeast, so you never have to have another yeast infection again? Now, that's a huge claim, but the 75% of women only get one yeast infection in their entire life. 4 or more a year is chronic. And a lot of the prospects are dealing with chronic yeast infections. And by combating the bad bacteria, yeast, candida in the gut, and then topically, they are addressing the core of what causes their symptoms. So mechanism gets to the core of the problem. We're not treating symptoms. We're getting to the reason why those symptoms exist. Another campaign that we just finished for My Doctor Suggests. Doctor, why am I sick? That's the headline. And it's because a lot of people, their routine is, I have these symptoms, I'm going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to spend a few minutes with me. He or she is going to give me a prescription, some pills. Hopefully they work. Hopefully the side effects aren't as bad or worse than the actual symptoms. That's Western medicine. It treats the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't treat the reason why those symptoms exist. So the mechanism also is getting to the core of why those symptoms exist. And so you're able to bring people, not with heavy science, but because people don't digest heavy science. They digest simple things. So the job of a copywriter is taking something this complicated and dumbing it down so anybody can absorb it. That's the whole 5th grade thing. I don't subscribe to the 5th grade thing because I use eloquence in my copy and convert really well. That's not saying being condescending or elitist or using big words for the sake of using big words. If I use a big word, I immediately dumb it down. If I say dysbiosis, I immediately explain what dysbiosis is in a way that anybody can understand it, because that's the credible scientific term. And then by making it easily understandable quickly, people get an emotional attachment to it. So we're continuing the conversation, building on the mechanism. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So mechanism is kind of like the lever that kind of takes you deep dive in, you as a copywriter deep dive into the science, and then to bring the prospect to the level of understanding that obviously they're not going to spend hours researching medical journals or whatever to understand it. So you use a mechanism acts as a lever to kind of use that, does the heavy lifting of explaining everything for you. You're not going to sit there and explain this. You just say, hey, look, it's kind of like pulling the plug. And, here is the science, so you can look it up and you can, feel confident that what I'm telling you is correct. But the mechanism does the heavy lifting, meaning that the prospect can understand everything that you're trying to say.
Absolutely. And with the mechanism, you are able to write a 15-second commercial or a 2-hour webinar. And also position it in different ways. Like, this campaign I'm talking about for the silver is for yeast infections. The next one is a broader general health. What's making me sick, like, I'm trying to find it to just quickly bring it up. So it's, hey doctor, what's the real reason I'm so sick? And I start out with science. According to a recent landmark survey, 46% of Americans took a medication for chronic health problems in the last 30 days. If you're over 60, the numbers get grim. A whopping 85% of us take medications for some sort of ailment. The top 3 reasons: diabetes treatments, beta blockers, and meds for high cholesterol. That means most of us have some sort of chronic problem, or many. So the question must be asked: why are we so sick? Why is our general quality of health and life so bad? Why are we always inflamed and or in pain? Why are we always so tired? Why is getting a full night's sleep so difficult? Why are we always trying to deal with one symptom after another? Why are our healthcare costs skyrocketing? Why is our ability to perform in life so impacted by our health? Why is anxiety and depression becoming so common? Why don't our doctors have the answers? So in a sea of whys, we need answers. So diving in the mechanism is the same for all of these things. The next one I'm writing after that is the cold and flu season, and really going after families, with kids going to school. Don't use antibiotic on your hands that deplete your immune system, that malfunction your immune system. Use structured silver. Neutralize the bad bacteria and pathogens that we're exposed to. And keep the whole family healthy. Cold and flu season's huge. And because of the mechanism, I'm able to position this same product in all of these different conversations. All because I understand the mechanism deeply. So I can make this product for cold and flus. I can make it for yeast infections. I can make it for gas and bloat and weight loss. I can position it for emotional health, depression, anxiety, satiety, overeating, any number of things.
Mm-hmm. And because the mechanism is based on solid science, it means that everything is compliant as well, and it does all of the things that it's going to do.
I have, all of the citations that I generally need to write any copy I want. Like yesterday, I didn't have to do any research. I was able to just write, although yesterday was mostly a collaboration day. But my point is, I understand deeply the mechanism. So it's like, if you understand the mechanism, how it works for me, then you can speak to all the different people, all the different demos that can benefit from it uniquely. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to just be dependent on one very broad campaign. But what's making me campaign, I'm expecting to do brilliantly. But you never know until you know. And you're always adjusting. And just like I'm discussing with getting our numbers for this yeast infection funnel up and knowing exactly how to do it, you have to know how to respond to data, which will be another video we do.
Mm-hmm. So if, say I'm writing for a new product, a client has come to me and they say, hey, we want you to write some copy. As you said, the first thing that we really need to do, the foundation of your copy is finding the mechanism, right? So to
look at this. This is CBD.
Right.
So hemp. It's full spectrum hemp. What's the mechanism? Why does this work? What does it do? You tell me. Do you know anything about CBD?
Not really.
Okay, so throughout our bodies, our first brain, our second brain, our immune system, vagus nerve, the traffic highway, the messaging highway that goes from the second brain to the first brain. All these things are organs. All of these things have very unique receptors called cannabinoid receptors. We don't use. There's all of the substances that we put into our bodies do not utilize these cannabinoid receptors. Now, cannabinoid receptors are very, very special. Let's take the immune system. What's autoimmune? Hyperactive immune response. It's an immune system that's attacking healthy parts of the body because it's malfunctioning. It's reacting to the cytokine inflammatory. It's sending out these cytokine responses. Inflame, 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 inflame. There's bad things happening, and it doesn't stop. Now watch. What's happening? Hemp has cannabinoids. CBD is one of those cannabinoids. But full spectrum plants have all of the cofactor cannabinoids, all the cannabinoids that make the plant intelligently work. Distillates isolate CBD and can flood the cannabinoid receptors. So it's like you get all the benefits for a few days and then you get none. It's tolerance. Full spectrum gets all of the different cannabinoids. So it uniquely attaches to all the cannabinoid receptors throughout my body, the immune system. And it manages the immune system. It helps bring it into homeostasis, like an adaptogen. What's an adaptogenic herb? Astragalus, ashwagandha. So adaptogenic means if it's too high, it brings it down. If it's too low, it brings it up. So it has an adaptogenic effect. Managing the immune system so that it is then managing the cytokine response, the inflammatory response that the immune system sends out when it thinks things are bad, right?
Yeah.
So that's the mechanism. Now, how do I sell that? Did you know that full spectrum hemp can uniquely attach the cannabinoid receptors in your immune system and manage it so you have less painful inflammation? It's true. How else can I do that? Well, we have cannabinoid receptors in our gut. What does our gut do? It manages serotonin, dopamine, GABA. Why does full spectrum hemp affect our ability to sleep? Because GABA is able to when you manage the gut, when you manage the neurotransmitters, the cannabinoid neurotransmitters for GABA to more clearly speak to the first brain, we're able to relax and feel safe in our bodies. We're able to fall asleep and stay asleep. Science. Now, obviously, results vary. And then there's the value proposition. Oh, is it psychoactive? Actually, no. Hemp is different from cannabis. They are in the same family, but one gets you high, one doesn't. Now, when you vape this, you get a body high, but it's relaxation, and it's the mechanism working. Relaxed. And it's because the full spectrum hemp, all of the cannabinoids that make this plant intelligent are attaching in my gut and are relaxing me at the core level of what makes anxiousness, anxiety possible. Mm-hmm. Right? Mechanism.
Cool. Okay. So I think we've covered kind of what mechanism is quite clearly in this video. Just to kind of summarize, it's essentially the leverage point that helps you go from deep science and taking that deep science and making it understandable to people, not only on sort of a logical level, but on an emotional level, so they can connect to it and say, hey, that's the same problem that I have. And it is kind of the foundation point of any kind of copy that you do. Now, obviously, a lot of the stuff that we talk about for mechanism involves a lot of research and asking the right questions, but that's something we can kind of dive into a bit deeper on another module.
Well, before we go, let me just give you an example on CBD. I just did one for sleep. Wondering why getting a simple full night's sleep is so difficult? The fact is, chronic sleep issues are currently affecting millions of people, so you're absolutely not alone. Get people to give them that serotonin effect. Always make sure you know what chemicals you're going after, so that when they feel that, you're not surprised. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because it's like, why do cows that are in the center of the herd have more serotonin than the ones on the outskirts? Because the ones that are on the outskirts are much more likely to get attacked first. The ones that are in the middle feel protected by the community. When you're a part of community, you get a serotonin response. That's why you do things like that. That's the mechanism of a mechanism, by the way. But until we understand why we can't sleep, it's very difficult to properly treat the problem. Discover the core of our sleep problems in a recently FDA-approved sleep treatment line, because you can't say CBD for a internal CBD, right? And then, there's quizzes and whatnot, but then I got advertorials. I did all kinds of shit for this dude. We even did, like video ads, by the way, are very popular and they do really well. Here's a video ad, and it's not a voiceover. It's just music, and captions with stock video. Sleep is the genuine foundation of youth we all have access to. Sleep is when our bodies repair and rejuvenate themselves, keeping us driven and able to perform in life. That's why failing to get 8 hours sleep a night can dramatically reduce our quality of life. But researchers have discovered how our main excitatory neurotransmitter is being malfunctioned by our modern way of life. Stress, being overworked, processed foods, environmental toxins, alcohol use, and less active lifestyles have taken their toll on this sleep neurotransmitter. It's pulsing too fast, making it virtually impossible for us to ever relax and easily fall asleep. Discover what this neurotransmitter is now. And, they go to either a quiz or they can land directly. Let's say they take a quiz. Your quiz results are in your email. But this is your one-time chance to finally discover why I can't sleep. And then we get into the, mechanism. The simple truth is doctor and nurse practitioners don't have the time to address the core for why we develop sleep problems. And other sleep supplements like melatonin don't address the core of your sleep problems either. You must address and manage the core issue, GABA. Now, the GABA neurotransmitter is your gateway to feeling calm, relaxed, peaceful, safe inside of your own body and able to easily fall and stay asleep. This neurotransmitter is supposed to beat at a slow, harmonious pace, but as life takes its toll, GABA freaks out. Just to really help you understand why you can't sleep, imagine a metronome going at 60 beats per minute. Then they hear it, they click it. Just to really help. That's what a healthy GABA neurotransmitter sounds like. That's when you're able to easily fall asleep. As age and lifestyle use up the nutrients that regulate GABA and keep it stable, the neurotransmitter functions sounding more like this. Can you hear how much faster GABA beats when it isn't getting the nutrient it needs to keep you feeling safe and relaxed? That's why you can't sleep. GABA is telling you, I need your help. It's starving. It's trying to survive and get your attention. And it's not going to stop until you stabilize it. Blah, 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 blah. Introducing Prism CBD full spectrum hemp drops. This recently FDA-approved sleep treatment can do something those prescriptions your doctor give you can't. They stabilize and quiet your out-of-control neurotransmitter. Here's how it works. CBD molecules bind to the GABA receptor and inhibits it or slows it down. It's like giving GABA the all-safe signal for your mind and body to let go and feel at peace, even when your life circumstances might be a source of constant trauma. So there's the mechanism, right?
You said something really interesting a bit earlier that I think kind of really summarizes basically everything we've covered here, is when you said you want people to read your mechanism and say, oh, that makes sense, right? And that's the essence of it. Because once, when someone says, hey, this nutrient's going to help you sleep more, your immediate response is like, well, what are you talking about? How do I know this is true? How do I know this isn't a scam? When you hit them with a mechanism, that's logically and emotionally leads them through the process and makes them go, okay, I can see how that would work. And as soon as that curiosity is piqued, then you kind of, you just
hit the nail on the head. When you watch a movie, you can't immerse yourself in the movie unless you believe it. You need to believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mechanism is that suspension of disbelief. It gives you permission to believe. And that's so important, because if I don't have permission to believe, I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to get every objection that I can throw at it to compare it to everything else that failed. But if I have permission to believe, I am much more likely to buy. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Let's end that one here.
Cool. All right. And guys, as ever, so this is a dynamic system that we're building. We're always kind of trying to build more stuff and add more value to this. So please feel free to get in touch in the membership section if you have any questions or any other topics that you want Mark to cover in a bit more detail. And then we can kind of dive a bit more into other things in the other modules. So for example, research, how to ask the right questions so you can understand the things that you need to understand in order to come up with an effective mechanism, about how to make prospects and customers associate a brand with the problem it solves, and loads of other really valuable stuff that's going to help you just really skyrocket yourself as a supplement copywriter. So thanks, Mark, and
Awesome.
see you
By
guys in
the
the next
way,
video.
I'm realizing I have an issue with you.
What?
You're way too pretty, dude. You're making me look like a troll. All right, no, awesome.
Healthy.
We'll
All right, cool. See you guys next video.